Now we'll go to Philadelphia.
Mr. Chairman, my name is David Hillink. I teach at Germantown Academy in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania. My question for you is about the Federal Reserve System itself. I'm wondering what you think young people most need to know about the Federal Reserve and how it operates.
Well, the first thing they should know is what it is. The Federal Reserve is, of course, a very important economic institution, and I think every informed citizen should know at least the basics of what the Fed is and how it's structured and what it does. A good economics class is going to take students a little further. It's going to explain what is monetary policy and how does it work. I think a very basic thing that often gets lost is the difference between monetary policy and fiscal policy. Monetary policy is the responsibility of the Fed. Fiscal policy is the responsibility of the Congress and the administration. Those are very different. They work in different ways, and there are different sets of responsibilities there. So understanding the distinction between those things, I think, is very important. The Fed is also a regulator, and the fact that along with other banking regulators, we oversee banks, try to help control the risks that they take, and try to help maintain their stability. But why is that, and what economic role does that play? Now, all of that would probably have been sufficient a few years ago, but recently, and now I'm getting into the AP class, a lot of other things have happened. The Fed has done things that it hadn't done for a long time. For example, over the last few years, we have been trying to use monetary policy to support the economy, but it is already almost 4 years or 3.5 years since the interest rate, the federal funds rate, went almost to zero, and we've been using other kinds of monetary policy involving the purchases of longer-term Treasury securities, for example. So instead of buying short-term securities, which is the traditional way of doing monetary policy, we're now doing longer-term asset purchases. So kids will want to, an advanced class certainly would want to understand how monetary policy can be conducted even when short-term interest rates are close to zero. The other thing which is very important, and I think there'll be a lot of broad interest in this, the Federal Reserve was founded, as I mentioned before, in large part to deal with financial crises, to be available to support the financial system during periods of panic and to try to stabilize the financial system. This function got a lot less attention during most of the post-war period, and most people began to think about the Fed as primarily a monetary policy institution. But obviously, with the crisis that we've had recently and crises in other parts of the world, central banks have become much more engaged in supporting financial system, creating financial stability, and explaining that basic function, I think, is also very important. So to summarize, basic structure and governance, monetary policy, distinction between monetary and fiscal policy, those are the basics. Those, I think, are what every citizen needs to know. And then the most recent few years, the Fed has done new things, including buying longer-term securities in order to provide more monetary policy support and working to stabilize our financial system. Those are more complex subjects, but also of, I think, great interest.